For the last 15 years, Adam Montiel has been bringing you the stories, the people, and the producers that make wine better and more fun. Whether you're a connoisseur or a cork dork. Here, we taste it, we spill it, we leave it all on the table. It's The Pour with Adam Montiel.
Back for another episode of The Pour. Today we are going to spill it all on the table. Have an exciting episode. We're going to be diving into two stories that stir things up in the world of wine. Controversy to creativity. First up, I got a chance to sit down with a man who is no stranger to speaking his mind, Adam Lee. Adam is the founder, of course, from Siduri fame, and if you're not familiar with him, you definitely should be. He is really on the pulse of Pinot Noir. Recently, he's found himself in the hot seat after claiming that his Pinot Noir dial tone has 32 times less sugar than a best-selling wine from Constellation brands called MEIOMI. I'm sure you've heard of it. Beyond Siduri, Adam is also the founder of Clarice Wine Company, which has garnered significant praise, and of course, Beau Marchais, a collaboration with the late Philippe Cambie that has produced award-winning Pinot Noir. And he's got these two newer distro brands, one called Busy Signal, and the one we're going to talk about today called Dial Tone. We're going to hear about his battle with big wine and why it doesn't seem he's backing down anytime soon. Plus, he shares some insider thoughts on transparency in winemaking, what's in the glass, what's on the label, and why it all matters. Later in the show, we're going to be shifting gears and speeding things up. Literally. We're joined by Megan Ball, the creator behind Harvest Speed Tastings. It's a high-energy tasting experience happening this weekend in Paso. We're even going to give you a chance to win tickets. You can go to adammontiel.com, click connect, and we're going to give a couple folks tickets in. So if you want to get in on that, get in on this now, because this, again, is this weekend. Megan's going to give us the rundown on this new, unique way to sit through some of Paso's best. Plus, we're going to be joined by Connor McMahon, owner and winemaker of Full Draw Vineyards. He's going to be here with Megan. He's also participating in the speed tasting. Some big brands are involved with this, so check it out later in the show. Before we get into our conversation with Adam Lee, I want to shout out my friends at Tin City Distillery. Who doesn't love some good whiskey? Damn! And guess what? I now have my very own barrel of whiskey there at Tin City Distillery, thanks to their amazing barrel program, and so can you. Not only is this whiskey aged to perfection, or it's aging to perfection, I still got to be patient with it. It's probably the hardest thing. Uniquely crafted. I also got my own personalized barrel head right up there. I even got an extra one for the studio. I love visiting my whiskey, my custodial visits, making sure, yes, it's aging just right. Also, keeping an eye on Patrick to make sure he's not drinking it. Come check it out. While you're there, explore the incredible lineup of craft spirits, ready to drink, cocktails in a can. Grab a cocktail at the bar. Who knows, you might even decide to start your own barrel. Stop by Tin City Distillery, of course, in the heart of Tin City, where passion and flavor come together in every single pour. TinCityDistillery.com, and let them know you heard it from Adam Montiel right here on The Pour. All right, excited to be joined by Adam Lee, a winemaker who has made a name for himself by challenging conventions and pushing for transparency in the wine industry. Adam, best known as the founder of Siduri Wines, where he became one of California's leading voices in Pinot Noir. Since then, he's continued to innovate, launching Clarice Wine Company, even collaborating with the late Philippe Cambie on Beau Marchais, producing wines that have earned critical acclaim all around. He entered the distribution market a year or so ago with two brands, one called Busy Signal and another called Dial Tone, which we're going to be talking about today, because he recently made headlines by openly comparing the sugar content of his Pinot Noir from Dial Tone to that of a best-selling wine from Constellation, MEIOMI. San Francisco Chronicle had an article about a week ago. He got a pretty strongly worded cease and desist letter, but I don't see him backing down anytime soon. You got to listen to the way this one unfolds. It's gold. It is gold. And it sparks a conversation of what's really in the glass. Adam, it's great to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for hanging out.
It's great to see you, Adam. We got two Adams in one broadcast. That might be too much. I don't know.
Adam squared, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Of course, I read this article and I'm like, oh, not my man. This, and then you're just reading it and you're just like, oh my God, this article reads more and more gangster with every single, as you know, the San Francisco Chronicle did a great job with the article. And I prefaced it before we came into this. I love how you didn't back down when Constellation's lawyers got involved. What was your initial reaction when you received that letter? And did you think it might actually bolster your position? Or were you a little bit like, oh, damn?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's the level of cursing I can do on the air?
No, you're fine. You're all good. Yeah, you're like, oh, shit.
I was like, oh, shit. That was exactly it. One never looks forward to a letter from a lawyer. I mean, it's just, even if one feels like one's in the right or any of that kind of thing, you look at it and all you see is expenses and time and just a bunch of waste. And so, no, I was not thrilled at all that I got that. And I was surprised. So, I mean, a little bit of the background, I had run on my own Facebook page this ad comparing, and it wasn't an ad. It was on my own page. I didn't pay for it. I didn't advertise it.
Yeah.
It was
And was it this pic right here?
Well, it's the one on the background there that you can kind of see.
Got it. Okay.
So really what it was is it showed 32 bottles of this, my Dial Tone Pinot Noir, and one bottle of MEIOMI. And it said there is less sugar in 32 bottles of Dial Tone than there is one bottle of MEIOMI. And it's something I looked it up because I had relatives serve me a bottle of MEIOMI. They were trying to be very nice. They wanted to serve me Pinot Noir. And I tasted it. And I'm like, wow, this is really sweet. So that led me to run a test. And then I had happened on the same time to run tests on the wine I was bottling. And I was like, wow, that's big. That's like 30 times. And so then I did the math and it turned out it was 32 plus times. And so then I thought about just creating a little something. But I also had a link in there to something that I truly believe, which says, drink what you like, know what you're drinking. And I truly do believe that it's completely and totally fine if somebody loves sweet Pinot Noir. Buy all the sweet Pinot. That's great. I love White Zin when I started out. That's exactly what I began wine drinking with, was White Zinfandel. The only problem I have with the sugar levels in MEIOMI is really more of a display problem or a presentation problem. It is presented as the same as other Pinot Noirs.
A dry wine, yeah.
A dry wine. Yeah, you see it on the shelf and it's all mixed together with most of my friends who make Pinot, and all of these things tend to be very dry. And I think about it, say you and I go to a hamburger joint together and we each get the burger, and it's one of them gets one that's incredibly sweet, has a bunch of sugar on it. It would surprise us. That's not how hamburgers are. We would be thinking, why didn't they tell us? Now, maybe we love it. Great. That's fine if you love it. And if they advertised it and said, this hamburger's got a lot of sugar in it, and people ate it, and they'd be like, fantastic. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But they should at least tell you that.
Was there a moment where you thought, well, maybe I shouldn't do this? Or were you all in from the beginning?
No, there was a moment. I mean, there was definitely some moments that I thought about not doing it. And there were moments I thought about doing differently because it wasn't correct. So I originally had one bottle of each. This is what I was thinking about, doing one bottle of each and 32 sugar cubes next to one.
There you go.
And 0.6.
That's effective.
Next to the other. But, I mean, it's not legal in California to add straight sugar to your wine. And so I'm like, okay, this is not accurate. It wasn't. So I wasn't going to do anything and present anything that was inaccurate, because wine can be confusing enough for people.
Right.
And we don't need to go around saying things that aren't true.
Okay, so how did the display come up? There is a friend of yours who's got a wine shop in another state, and he literally, now he says, in the article, he says he sells truckloads of the MEIOMI, maybe, maybe a couple cases a week. He said he's up to like 800 this year so far. Yeah. And then he does this right next to it. I love it.
So, and it really even wasn't a friend at the time. I was working, Ray and I were working together in selling wine in Kansas. And our distributor had seen the post on the Facebook page about the 32 bottles in one bottle. He's a friend on Facebook as well. And he's like, do you mind showing that, what you did? And this was like 3 months before that, 2 or 3 months before we're visiting the market. Do you mind showing it to these guys? These guys love like counterculture stuff. I mean, they're really, they love really taking edgy things, that kind of. So I showed them and they were like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Can you send the video to us? So I sent the video to them, having no clue that they were going to build a display out of it. And they built this display. They blew up the one part where it says there's less sugar in 32 bottles than there is in one bottle. They blew that up on their own and turn around. I mean, and in Leawood, Kansas at Ranch Mart have this set up here. And I had a customer about 2 weeks, 3 weeks before I got the letter from Constellation, send me that picture, or pretty much exactly. They sent me that picture and said, I see your wine is out here, great display. And I'm like, well, I didn't even know we had a display, but that's fantastic.
They made you an end cap. So cool.
Yeah. And then, 3 weeks or so later, I get this letter from the lawyer for Constellation.
Wow. Now you've made it clear that transparency for you is key. Letting people know, hey, just what's in the glass, what's in the bottle, let me know. What do you think that honesty in labeling, why do you think it's such a challenge still for the wine biz?
Yeah, it is. And it's a great question. And I know one real reason why it is a challenge to put it on the label, which is here in the United States, when we repealed prohibition, we turned over regulation of wine and spirits to the individual states rather than to the federal government. So to give you an example, if I listed, say, calories and different things on the back label, and then the next year those change because the vintage is different, in the state of Connecticut, I would have to reapply for the label at a cost of $300. In another state, I would have to reapply because the label is different year to year. So I'm actually, of all people, I'm like, transparency, yes. I am not a huge fan of requiring ingredient labels on wine. I am a huge fan of having standards and requiring a code, a scannable QR code that could go to the website. So then I can update that all the time, and I don't have to pay Connecticut or Mississippi or whatever state each time I change the label around. I'm a small producer, and each $100, $200, $300 fee that adds up ends up costing a lot of money.
Yeah. Okay, so there's obviously a disconnect between that, what wine drinkers believe they're consuming versus what's actually in the glass. What role do you think winemakers should play in bridging that gap?
I think that winemakers, so I think some of it is on winemakers, but to be fair, as somebody who used to be a retailer, I think a lot of it is really at that point of purchase, be it a retailer or a restaurateur, that I think the way you present things. So I'll give you an example. With German Riesling, they have dry Rieslings called Trocken, and then they have something called Halbtrocken, which is half dry. And they've come up with categories broadly on sugar, saying this is it's half dry. It's not as dry as the other. We could certainly do that, and that might be something that's worthwhile because we are seeing more and more sweet red wines. We would have to decide what the category would be, but I still think it would be up to, you could accomplish it just the same if you had a retail store and you said, here's our section of half dry red wines.
Yeah.
If you did it on a wine list and you said, here's our section of half dry red wines, that to me would at least provide the consumer, going back to that hamburger example I gave you, it would provide the consumer the information that they need to make an informed choice.
Now, your comparison to MEIOMI has made a lot of people who might not have been thinking about sugar levels in their wine, they're thinking about it now. It might be the first time for them. Yeah. Why do you think sugar content isn't more widely discussed when we talk wines? And for someone who's listening, how do we explain it? Like, wait a minute, but it says it's dry, but it's 19, explain this all to us if you could.
Sure. So for me, part of the reason winemakers think about it is a very practical reason. You don't want the wine to ferment again in the bottle. And fermentation is basically yeast taking sugar and turning it into alcohol. So you want the wine to be stable so that it doesn't ferment again. And there are different ways to make it stable. You can filter out all of the yeast, and that way it doesn't ferment again, and it can be sweet then or not. Or you can ferment it until it's dry. And dry is considered about 2 grams per liter of sugar. And as a reminder, that MEIOMI was 19 grams. So it was about 2 grams. My dial tone was 0.6 grams per liter. But I didn't try to stop it at 0.6. That's when the yeast gave out. If somebody's yeast gave out at 1.2 grams, that's dry for them because you don't have to filter it again. Right. Or you can just bottle it without filtration. It's going to be at a point of stability. So that's where I think, for my mind, where sugar comes into play from a pure wine making point of view. I do think for consumers, it's something that people are trying to limit sugar intakes. Diabetics, any number of people, it would be helpful to know. And I honestly don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, I am not diabetic, but if the wine instead of below 2 grams was 2.3 grams or 2.4 grams, I don't know that is enough of a quantitative difference that it's going to affect anything. It's like, one bottle of this wine versus one bottle and 1 ounce. Right. That's kind of the same. Yeah. But 32 to 1, or actually, more interestingly, my new dial tone, the 23, is 0.4 grams, and the MEIOMI is actually down slightly at 18 and something or other grams, but it's now 45 bottles to 1. We gotta update the ad now. We do. We have to update that. How did your legal tension with Constellation, and I'm going to ask you in a minute where we're at with that, how did it affect your relationship with the broader wine community? Did you find a lot of support, a lot of people texting you? Did some people kind of steer clear, gotta hang tight away from Adam for a little bit? We're trying to get acquired here. I don't know. Yeah, 2 things. By and large, most people were like high fives. This is great that somebody's pointing it out. There was a lot of that went on. There were a couple of people that were critical, and I give them a lot of respect for the way they were critical of me. They were saying things like, we need simply more people drinking wine, period. Whether or not they're drinking this wine or that wine in the sugar content or not, we really shouldn't be doing this, that this is something that is not helpful. And I've tried to be very inclusive all my life in doing events with other people's wineries, involved with other things. So I feel for that. And I do believe that the rising tide raises all ships, and we do need more people drinking more wine. Yeah, but what, it's like, because beer is, creeping up, craft spirits, having nice strides up, and wine is unfortunately taking kind of a hit. They can't put that on you. You know what I mean? Like that, and that's not gonna, you know what I mean? Like that needle's not moving because of anything like this. But I mean, sure, I can get their point, and they put it out in a nice, respectful way. I can get their point, but I also think it is a misconception that if we provide the consumer with more information, whether it's the retailer, restaurant, or winery, that's going to hurt sales. I actually think sometimes the fact that we have been so opaque in the way we've dealt with things has hurt sales as much as anything. If we were more open, then I think that would be helpful. And I'll give you Constellation a good bit of credit here. Something has changed. I hadn't seen it before. They list the residual sugar now on their website for MEIOMI, on their own site, which makes it even odder to me that I got a letter from the lawyer saying, prove it or cease and desist. What are you going to do? And I love how you were really kind of, you just had a nice tone. It was a humorous tone in your article, and rather in your letter back to them, where you said, you want to include some credit card information, happy to send you some bottles that you can test. Where do we sit with Constellation right now in this issue? So I have not heard back from them. Obviously, the Chronicle article came out. The Chronicle reached out to Constellation and didn't get a response. I haven't heard back from the attorney. You will be, I don't know when this is going to be airing, but it is going to be written up again on Wednesday in the local paper here, the Santa Rosa Press Democrat, North Bay. So they saw the story and they chose to pursue it as well. But to the next level up, it's also going to be in Wednesday's Wall Street Journal, which has
damn.
Yeah, that's got a huge audience. So we'll see then if there is a response forthcoming. I don't know.
That is really interesting. So we're in the middle of harvest right now, 2024. In fact, you might be wrapping up. I don't know. Some folks have said like, oh, it's a little bit lighter. It's a little bit more spread out. I'm curious, you and your world, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? And how has Harvest 24 affected you?
I think Harvest 24 is at least a very good year. It was an on again, off again year. We had a hot period, then a cool period, then a hot period. So it's really one of those kind of spread out all over the place. And if you picked during a hot period, your sugars might be up. If you let it go through into a cool period, you might have it later. I think the style might be somewhat all over the board, but I think the quality is going to be very, very good.
You know, you've been close to a lot of big acquisitions. Your Siduri brand was bought by Kendall Jackson. You introduced Pinot to Rombauer in the year before they got sold to Gallo. Now you're dealing with this Constellation. And I read a comment that you put on Reddit.
I don't think they're going to hire me anytime soon. But
that's probably true. But I read a comment. You were on Reddit, and you were, I don't know if you're on Reddit a lot. You kind of said, hey, it's my first time being here.
Yeah.
But you made a mention that you didn't think that someone asked you, do you think they know who you are? That you didn't think they knew who you were. Do you really think that like Constellation, they don't know who Adam Lee is? Like, to me, that feels impossible.
I would guess that they don't. I mean, Constellation is a huge company, and I think I would be surprised if you go to some of their individual brands and the people that run, so they own Sea Smoke now, for instance. I would imagine the people at Sea Smoke know who I am, kind of thing. But I think on some sort of larger corporate level, and I would assume the attorney that works for him would not know. I saw a lot of discussion about that, and I have no clue how this works. You know, if this was seen in a retail store, and Constellation referenced that, the attorney did in the letter, you assume that some salesperson saw it, sent it over to them. But, you know, how far up does this go? I can't imagine. It's huge. And I imagine this is something that the attorney did as pretty much let's send it out and see if we can get the guy to stop doing it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't creating the ads that go into the retail store to begin with. So, I didn't really have anything to do with that creation.
I feel like nobody knows crisis management, and this didn't need to become a crisis. And I think it might be becoming one for them, because now they're probably wishing they could maybe backpedal their way out of this one. Honestly, if they picked up the phone and called you and didn't put this in writing, didn't put this quote on the record of yet, that might have been a good way to break the ice on something like this.
I think that would have been fine. An email, not necessarily from the attorney, but just somebody saying, we'd love to talk to you about this.
Right. Can you jump on the phone for a minute? Yeah.
Yeah. The email also came with a FedEx letter coming to the house that had with a copy of that as well, that you had to be around for. A signature was
certified. Oh my gosh. Certified receipt.
Yeah. So, I mean, it probably was, if I'm a mosquito, it was trying to kill a mosquito with a sledgehammer type thing. And that didn't work out very well.
Okay, tell me what you think of this. I'm thinking March 25 rolls around. We get Stacey Jacob from World of Pinot on the phone, and we put a dinner of MEIOMI and Dial Tone together.
It sounds like a fun idea to me, right? Sure.
You always seem to have something cooking out of my, of course, I mentioned Wappin. I see you every March at World of Pinot Noir. I do look forward to it. What's next? What's on the horizon for you, Murray?
We are bottling this week in Lirac in the south of France. We have a project that we have done over there. So you'll remember I worked with Philippe Cambie from Chateauneuf-du-Pape on a California Pinot, and I worked with him for 3 years until he sadly passed away way too young. And I got to know, Murray and I both got to know very well his handpicked assistant, Simona Pali, and she and her husband, Jeff, have a wonderful property in Lirac. So we talked to them about making wine, kind of a reverse Beau Marchais, where they are the hands and eyes and ears on the ground. We give them direction on how the wine is being made. And together with a partner, Sasha Verhage, Sasha worked with Philippe with a project called Downstream out of Paso Robles. Yeah. So the three of us are working there, and we've created a wine called Etienne. Stephen Etienne, but Etienne was the birth name of one of the popes, the Avignon popes during that period of time, who was famed for ordering 20 casks of Lirac. So we're going to have wine that we're involved in making from France, coming over here, bottled, and hopefully arriving in early January.
Now, the downstream, remind me, I think I've only tried it once. It's fantastic. Wasn't that Justin Smith and Philippe?
Justin Smith from Saxum, Philippe, and Sasha.
Got it. Okay, cool. Wow. And that was Zinfandel based.
It was Zinfandel with a lot of other things mixed in as well. So we're Syrah, Grenache, and Mourvedre in 23. We have a little Carignan in 24 as well.
Fun. That sounds fun. So you're playing more with some Paso fruit.
Yeah, well, that's from France in Lirac.
Right.
So
okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So no, we're going even further afield than Paso.
Yeah.
We're going.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I got confused right there. Well, this is awesome. The story is great. I hope you decide to keep us abreast on how it goes. I mean, you're just kind of waiting. Now, are you even talking to an attorney? Did your attorney just go like, you don't need me, Adam, you're good, like you're fine?
Pretty much. I drafted it up and I ran it by him, and he made a couple of suggestions, but it was minor and it was all fine. The thing that has been fun, and I mean, you were talking about how maybe it backfires. We got messages and emails. We have 3 new distributors for Dial Tone. Now, people from other states were like, we want to have this wine in. This is fantastic. So not something that I'd ever imagined, but yeah, it ended up turning around and being a real, so far, I mean, obviously it could go south still, but it proved to be a little bit of a boon for sales.
You gave me a bottle of your Busy Signal and a bottle of your Dial Tone, both opened up beautifully. Dial Tone, just awesome. I mean, this is really the goal is let's use the marketplace, let's use distribution, and let's give somebody an honest, badass bottle of Pinot Noir that doesn't cost an arm and a leg, but really delivers. Over-delivers.
Yeah, if every Pinot was $100, I never would have gotten into Pinot. So I think it's important to have $25-ish Pinots out there, which is what Dial Tone goes for, and to have that as a very true representation of Pinot Noir at a very fair price.
Yeah. See it Wapping this year?
Yep. Looking forward to it.
All right. Always love catching up with you. If you are driving up through your travels, and I know you come through the Central Coast all the time, let's grab a drink. Yep. Let's hang out with them. I'd love that. Give my love to Murray. And it's always great catching up with you, man. Way to dial this, no pun intended, way to dial this situation. And I appreciate you, Adam. Take care, Adam. All right, link to that article, and it's all over now. I mean, you heard him. It's getting picked up everywhere. I mean, Wall Street Journal? Damn. The Pour? Yeah, The Pour's on it. No, I always appreciate talking to Adam. He is really candid, no bullshit, tells you like it is. A really entertaining dude. Really smart, too. All right, next up, we got Megan Ball. She's the driving force behind Harvest Speed Tastings. It's an event that's adding a whole new level of energy to Paso's wine scene. Megan's going to walk us through what inspired this unique tasting format, kind of like speed dating, how it offers a really fresh way for wine lovers to connect with some of Paso's most exciting wineries, all boom, 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 right there. 4 of them, right there with you. Joining Megan is Connor McMahon, owner and winemaker of Full Draw Vineyards. Connor is just one of the talented winemakers and great high-level brands participating in these speed tastings. He's going to share his thoughts on why this event is such a great way to showcase his wines and Paso wines. Whether you are new to the wine scene, just love exploring, or maybe a seasoned enthusiast, it's a conversation that's going to get you ready for an unforgettable tasting adventure. Let's go. Thanks, guys, for being here.
Nice to talk to you. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so the concept of speed tasting, obviously a playful twist on speed dating. Where was the inspiration behind this format, and how do you see it kind of enhancing the wine tasting experience for folks that check it out this weekend?
So it was actually my husband's idea. He saw a speed tasting thing for some wine region, really, I think it was like in Ohio or something. And he was like, isn't this a fun idea? And it kept floating around in the back of my head. And I just know that a lot of wineries are hurting. There are so many, and there's all these people coming to town, and it's so hard for people to decide where to go and how to spend their time, and for wineries to decide how to spend their time and their focus and their energy. And it just seemed like it fit 2 problems at once, Was this a tough sell to wineries? Like, hey, it's an interesting kind of unconventional way to taste. What were
their reactions. We'll go through some. You got great names involved in the tastings this weekend. One of them is actually here with us. I can't wait to talk to. But I'm curious how they kind of wrap their heads around this when you brought it to them.
So I came up with the idea, and then I just sort of bounced it off a few people, and they all thought it was a really good idea, having this kind of collective tasting. And then I went to the PRWCA, Paso Robles Wine Alliance, and I talked to them, and they said that they would put out an all call to the PRWCA to invite whoever would want to try and do it. And I was thinking, maybe we'll do 1 or 2 sessions. It could be fun. And then I got all these responses.
Great.
And all of a sudden I was at like 22, and then it was 24, and I kept being like, okay, well, it's sets of 4. Okay, I could add 1 more here, and I could add 1 more there. And finally at 28, 7 sessions, I was like, I can't do any more than this.
So let's talk about how we're breaking it down. So Friday, we have 2 sessions, a 2 p.m. and a 4. Saturday the 19th, 11 a.m., a 1 p.m., and a 3 p.m. Each of these have, 4 brands there. And then Sunday, we have an 11 a.m. and a 1 p.m. And we have some great brands involved here.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And as they started coming together, I started kind of placing them together too. So like Friday at 4 p.m., you've got Alta Clina and Hubba and Primitive and Ultimate Thule. And those are all people who've worked together at different points in time.
Yeah.
So I was like, these would be fun personalities to put together. Also kind of playing around with sort of status and style. Full Draw and Law are both really beautiful high-end wineries, beautiful spaces to be in, but very different, like parts of Paso and different looks and feels to their wine.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we start out with October 18th on Friday, 2 p.m. Law, Full Draw, Zanoli, and Pius. 4 p.m. Alta Calina, Hubba, Primitive, Ultima Thule. Saturday, Brecken, Delecta, Hawks Hill Ranch, and Absolution. 1 p.m. you got Lene Coloto, McPrice Myers, Jacob Toft, and Karn. 3 p.m. that day, Saturday, 6 Mile Bridge, Castoro, Truss, and Zabetto. Some fun names here. And then Sunday, October 20th, 11 a.m., Desperada, Caliza, Pelletieri, and Arbuckle. And then 1 p.m. wrapping up with Booker, Adelaida, Copia, and Lavigne. Let's talk about what someone will experience when they show up. How's it all going to run?
So it's going to be a 90-minute experience. Everyone will show up. The way Sam's Kitchen is set up, it's 1 bar with 14 stools around it. And so the guests will come and sit down at the stools, and we will all start with a quick explanation of the rules. And then each winery is going to have 2 wines. They get to have 8 minutes to discuss their wine and pour it for the guests and have the guests drink it. We're going to do it non-consecutively. So winery A will stand up, pour their wine, talk about it for 8 minutes. I have a little timer. At the end of 8 minutes, they sit down, then winery B, C, D, and then we'll go back around to A, B, C, D again. And so the idea is that you're going to have about 16 minutes total with this winery, each winery. You're going to get to taste 2 wines that they really think represent who they are. You're going to have an actual representative of that winery standing there, someone who helps make the wine or sell the wine, who's a part. This is Paso. We're all part of everything.
Yeah.
And you get to do all that in 90 minutes. It's going to be about 2 and a bit glass of wine, so it's not overwhelming. I actually think it'll be interesting.
We're
to
all
watch
professionals.
Taste,
yeah.
And then you're right downtown. So, walk out and go to dinner or lunch or whatever.
I love this idea. We're talking about speed tasting happening this weekend. We got Megan. We also got Connor. He's the owner winemaker for Full Draw. Connor, first of all, it's great to see you, my man.
Great seeing you. It's been too long, buddy.
This isn't really your typical wine tasting format. How does this whole speed tasting concept, how does it kind of change the way we approach in showcasing, your wines?
It's a great idea. I really love this, and I think it's a cool concept. And it's going to be fun being with our peers and people that you've worked with and seen for a long time and be able to do it in front of each other. And, we each bring something different to the table, which will be fantastic, not only for us as producers, but for people coming in to taste as well. But it just gives you a different platform to kind of promote yourself.
So let's talk about how Harvest 24 has treated you so far. We're right there on Anderson Road. You're doing some incredible stuff. What did you see in 24 and how's it been going?
24 has been great. I'm going to be probably against the grain here. This has been the easiest harvest I've had in my 14-year career here in Paso, which has been fantastic. We went through some struggles in September with some really hot days. We took some straw off at the beginning of that, but then we went through a cooling trend before getting to another hot trend. So we've just been strategically picking the vineyard over the last 5 or 6 weeks, and in the past 3 or 4 years, it's pick everything in 14 days. So it's just been a nice, casual, happy harvest. The fruit looks and tastes great. So, I mean, I'm thrilled to see where 24 goes.
When we see an event like this that kind of, flips the regular tasting on its head, it's kind of creative, a little out of the box. When you think of your SKUs in your head, how do you go, okay, what wines do I want to introduce to a crowd and in an atmosphere like this?
Yeah. So we actually are going to pour a white and a red. So our white is from 2021. It's called Drift. It's a blend of 92% Claret Blanche, 8% Grenache Blanc. And then we're going to pour our 2020 Chopping Block. And I don't remember the blend of that, but it's predominantly Syrah with some Mourvedre and Grenache. And it's just seamless and precise right now. So we thought we'd give a white and a red just because at Full Draw, we love both segments of those wines. And so we want to showcase wines that we believe in and we trust and we know that people will like.
Megan, speed tastings encourage, a direct, fast-paced interaction with winemakers, which I think is really exciting. I think, I totally hear what Connor's saying. What do you hope participants will take away from these kind of rapid encounters with such a diverse group of people and wineries?
So it's kind of taking the idea of something like Wine Festival, where you have the chance to taste so many things at once, but making it small and intimate, which is what the reality of an actual wine tasting experience would be like if you went to that winery. And so it's for not, I forget what Wine Fest is, like 100.
Yeah. More,
it's
sure.
for wineries, but it's also just that space itself. You're sitting around a bar and it's a very intimate situation. I mean, typically at Sam's Kitchen, it's a single service of dinner, 8-course meal, and all the individual couples and guests begin to get to know each other. It becomes one collective experience. And there's something really kind of magical about that. And so how do you bring that? It's just always struck me. It would be such a beautiful tasting experience too.
As we are in Harvest Wine Month for Paso Wine Country, and this weekend specifically was the weekend before we made it Harvest Wine Month that we would really focus on, the wineries, this Harvest Wine Weekend we used to call it. Now it's Harvest Wine Month. The significance, what does the timing hold for you in the participating wineries doing it on this weekend in this month?
I've been in Paso since 2013 and I love Paso. I really do. And so I've always wanted to be able to help promote it more. And I think we've got all these great organizations like Paso Wine and the Paso Robles Wine Alliance who are bringing, and Travel Paso, who are bringing people into our area. And so they're coming, but then where do they go? There are so many choices. And so it seems like this would be a great way to get those people who are coming in for long experiences for the most part. They're coming for the wine dinners and the day-long events that people are hosting at whatever winery is pulling them in or event. But there's no single event on this weekend anymore. And I wanted something that in no way competed with those long events, but that gave sort of a grounding to this weekend, which has always been kind of special in Paso. I mean, October is just so much fun. And there's really nothing better than getting a bunch of wine people together in October and they're so tired. They say the best things. Everything is just so much more raw. It feels like it's a great time of year to get people together. But then since all these people are here, this is a chance. You get to try 4 wineries in 90 minutes. And when you walk away from that, you're going to know the next time you go to plan a visit where to spend your time.
When you look at these names, I mean, you're going to have 4 places that are on your next bucket list of where I got to go. I got to go there now.
Yeah.
This is really a great calling card. And it's just that right sprinkle of just right as far as like timing and having these, you're going to a great place like Sam's Kitchen. These wineries are coming to you. Sam's Kitchen is the perfect backdrop for something like this speed tasting. How did you and Ian envision using the space to maximize the experience at times when there's no dinner service there?
So we have talked about it a lot. That space is so small. Ian does all of his prep work right there on that bar, and so if there's going to be a dinner service, it is taken during the day. But in addition to his wonderful dinner services, he goes off and does these trips all over the world where he teaches about wine in Burgundy or Champagne. And we just started to realize that these are whole weekends where it's dark. And beyond it being Sam's Kitchen, it's also the corner of 13th Street and Pine. And that's right in the heart of downtown Paso these days. Totally. And so we've been playing around with what could we do in this space. We did a couple little pop-ups. We did one with Sight Wines, who's the winemaker Jeremy over at Adelaida, because he doesn't really have a tasting room. So we just did a pop-up on Labor Day weekend on the Monday, and we did a couple of we did 2 sessions of just his wines against some Rhone wines that we picked out, and over half the crowd was locals who were simply like, we just wanted to see behind these curtains.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the other fun things about it is it was, as I love the mystique of Sam's Kitchen, and I think that's so important, but maybe the community could be demystified slightly, and it's just such a fun space.
No, that's a really good point.
In,
Yeah, we got Megan here from these speed tasting. We got all the links to the show notes. Check it out. Again, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You got numerous times. The link will take you to all of it. You want to book your time. Tickets is $40. I mean, really reasonable considering what you're getting and the relationships that you're going to make. And, again, you're going to be making some lists of places that you're going to be visiting. One of those, my man, Connor, full draw. Connor, it was really great to see you. And I can't wait to taste how a Harvest 24 comes up for you. And I always love, you're one of these wines that we all love just tasting. So it was really cool to hang out with you, man.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Megan, thank you so much for including me. You can go to adammontiel.com. We're going to get a couple tickets, a chance for someone to win some tickets. So go to adammontiel.com if you want to win your way into Paso Speed Tasting this weekend. Harvest Wine Weekend. Appreciate you a lot, Megan. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having us.
Well, if you want to win your way in, you can. Go to adammontiel.com, click the Connect tab. First, check out the tasting you want to go to. I think you should go to this one. I want to give away a pair of tickets to Connor's tasting. That's Friday, 2 p.m. That's coming up. So this is all this weekend. Find which one you want to go to. Get to adammontiel.com, click the Connect tab. Give me your info. Definitely need your cell phone number. And in that message, let me know what's up. And who knows, we might get you in. Also, I want to let you know, don't forget, we got a brand new episode of Where Wine Takes You, my podcast with Paso Wine. This time, we are featuring the folks from Cal Poly's incredible wine and vit program. We're there in the facility. It's just gorgeous. We're sitting down with the winery manager, Jim Shoemate, old friend of the show. Also, Benoit Leca, who is the department head, professor, wine business. They're doing it all there. They are doing it all there. We even got we got 3 students. Let's see, we had Augusta, Caden, and Gracie, all telling us, this is tomorrow's wine industry professionals, telling us what they're learning there in the Cal Poly Wine and Vit program. It's a really, really cool episode. It's the latest episode of Where Wine Takes You. I will include a link in the show notes, and wherever you are listening to this episode, you can definitely listen to that one as well. I want to thank our friends at Moonshiner Collective for original music on the show. The song is called Come Alive. Moonshiner Collective performing Unplugged at the Penny, downtown SLO, November 15th. Doors at 7:30. Show starts at 8 sharp. You don't want to miss this show. You get to hear all these shows that I use as theme songs, from Come Alive to Up and Adam uses Start Again. The Where Wine Takes You uses Good Company. He will sing every single one of them. I guarantee it. I've already paid him. No, it's an incredible show. Moonshiner Collective Unplugged at the Penny. Check it out. I'll put links to that show in the notes as well. Well, this podcast of the 3, of course, Up and Adam and Where Wine Takes You, this one is the one that we're trying to get the most momentum on. Where Wine Takes You is just incredible. It's a top 10 wine podcast in the country. Up and Adam, always trying to get new folks to listen to that daily podcast. It's really a different beast, but the pour is exactly what, I created 14, 15 years ago that Jeremy and I were hosting when we were just a bunch of Cork Dorks. So we got several episodes ready to go now. I'm excited. We got some more advertising interest. So we're going to be really pumping these things out with more regularity. It's just been really a journey. This whole year, of course, transitioning to independent with Up and Adam. Of course, Where Wine Takes You has just been awesome. It's been going great. Thank goodness. Thank God for, my relationship with Paso Wine and that podcast. I just love it. It feels like home now. And we're getting more traction on what we're doing here with the pour. And the way I kind of differentiate the two, Where Wine Takes You is all Paso and all wine. The pour, kind of like what I was doing before on terrestrial radio, this is more than Paso, and it's really more than wine. Today we're talking about, the wine business and the story with Adam Lee. We took the show to the Firestone Invitational Beer Fest. We're talking spirits. It's a little bit more broad and a little bit more just outside. And although you will hear us talk about Paso here, it's not exclusively Paso like Where Wine Takes You is. So thank you so much for sharing this podcast with a friend. At this point, we would really love you to rate, review, subscribe. Leaving that review, it means so much and really helps that algorithm and helps others discover the show. So please consider that. And thank you in advance. I'm your host, Adam Montiel. Appreciate you connecting here once again and enjoying the pour.
It's The Pour with Adam Montiel. You can hear The Pour in its entirety on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, and wherever you get your podcasts. For more, visit adammontiel.com.